can. All right, now that's why we come to scope. So what scope does is it should describe the boundary of research, okay, in terms of what can you measure, and also in terms of your methodology. It has the same marks, 10 marks, and the same weightage. So you can see that the items in the first part of the report has the same weightage. That means it has the same importance. So you cannot neglect any part of it and just, write whatever. Okay, so it must be very clear from your point of view and of course from your supervisor's point of view. So the scope must outline the project outcome. Okay, say for example some system or what kind of performance evaluation that you do, and you must identify constraints. Okay, whether time, resources, technical limitations. Say for example you're testing for straight lines, and you should say that straight lines is actually inside the lab, and the straight line is actually a line that was taped by something, and it's white, and so it's not applicable. So you can see that from other people's point of view that only white lights are or white stripes are tested, so black stripes we don't know. So that is the scope of your project. And subject or accessibility to information must also be there to identify a constraint. So things like if you are testing it on people, then you can say because of the time constraint that we have, that we are able to just take, like for example 10 samples. Okay, you should also identify assumptions. Things like if you are testing it in, for example, if you are planning to use create some kind of robots that works, for example, to move or to pick some products from one point to another point, then you have to assume to put the assumptions that, for example, there is no obstacles in between them. You assume that there is no obstacles between them. You assume that the current flow is stable inside the machines, and you assume that there is no vibrations inside the linkages and so on. So assumptions shows how much you understand about the nature of your work. Okay, and finally you define the boundary. What do you explicitly do in the project, which is your method. Okay, and what you don't do. So both of that defines your boundary. So things like if you are designing and what you call monitoring system, you should say that the monitoring system only measures pH and moisture, and not, for example, sun intensity or the density of, for example, soil and so on. So what you don't do, you must also clearly state in your boundary, or, in your scope. Okay. So this is an example of in previous students' objective. Okay, so you can see that to obtain the grade level object recognition strategy for inhomogeneous spherical object recognition, and you can see that the scope, it says the homogeneous object is of spherical shape, painted with matte paints in 3 colors, red, green, and blue. Range of object to the image sensor is 1 meter. Normal office lighting, and it is approximately 500 lux. Okay. Second, to obtain appropriate combination of color channel and color object for better contrast of object compared to background. So it says here what are the combination color channels opted for the project in color cameras: RGB, RG, RB, and GB. Okay. And to analyze the effectiveness of the color channel and color combination in terms of recognition rate and speed. So these scopes actually define what kind of experiments that they are going to do. And the following methods are not taken into account, which is the amount of surface roughness. Because if you have a different surface roughness, then it affects the reflection and refractions of the light. And then spectral variations and color temperature of illuminating light are also not taken into account, because if you have some spectral variation, you will not have the same concentration of light to your surface. So basically, when you are talking about assumptions or things that are outside your boundary, it shows to the reader that you actually know what you are doing, and you know your limitations of your project. Okay. Okay, this is an example of the project that you can have more improvements. Okay, so these are the objectives that I just commented just now, and you can see the scope is that the first says human walking movement detection. In this project, we mainly be focused on walking movement that mainly affect human health. Okay, So this is very broad. What are the walking movement that mainly affect human health? You can actually focus on, for example, if you're focusing that on like geriatric or older people that have, for example, paralyzed on one side, so there will be like some kind of distortion in the walking. So you can specifically focus on one pathology, not other types. Okay, because you can't test for everything, so we can just take one kind of like scope and you focus on that. And then it says 20 people as the target of the project. Okay, so that's the scope. You are going to test 10 male and 10 female. And then this project also highlight on indoor environment. Okay, so I commented here, I thought you're using treadmill, because part of the introduction is he says that he'll be using treadmill, but it's not specific here. So it should be like, if you are suggesting that you are going to use in your methodology something like that, then you have to put inside your scope as well. Okay, so it says 3 walking speed that I use in this project. So basically right now, when you see the scope, it is actually trying to enumerate what kind of experiments that you are going to do. Okay, and what are your limitations. Okay, so things like we don't consider, for example, the imbalance of the participants, or we don't consider whether the surface roughness of the shoes can what you call the imbalance of the shoes can be a factor of imbalance in walking or something. So you must have some kind of information that shows the focus of your project. All right. Okay. So before we leave, I would like to focus on these abbreviations, and sometimes we use this in scientific writing. So please use it appropriately, because IE and EG is not the same thing. Okay, and et al. And is ETAL dot, not ET dot AL. Okay, so this people usually does it a lot in literature reviews, so I'm just pointing it out here. So this is like the part inside chapter 1, which you should focus on with the guide from your supervisors. Okay, so you can obtain this slide, okay, from the ULearn page, as well as the record of this from ULearn page. Okay, all right, so thank you so much for listening. I hope I'll see you again, or if you have any problems or any questions, you can always email me at nordiana@utam.edu.my. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good day ahead.